Hello everyone, it's Sarah here, painter creator. I'm just exploring. Earlier on we've got a video of doing this one, but I did this without the boat being masked out. This is on A4 paper, so I've just got a small piece of, I think it's about 5x7 or similar. It's a smallish piece. Less than a paintbrush, how about that? And I'm going to just see if it's easier to do this painting masked out. So I'm just going to, just for my purposes really, I'm just going to draw on the sort of top bit of the boundary of the land. And then, so that's roughly where the land's going to be. And I might just do that, just put a little masking of that sun. I will do that. So I've been using, for this one, because it's smaller, I've been using this Sennelier masking fluid. It's got an applicator nozzle, which means I don't have to look after my brushes and all the rest of it. It does sometimes come out with a bit of a bubble. So I'm going to just let that dry. As with all masking fluid, you need to let that dry naturally, because otherwise it ends up bonding to the paper. So I shall come back to you when that's dry. Okay, so I'm back. We've got a dry little sun. So I've just given my paints a little spritz with my little spritzer bottle. I'm using my large Meaden squirrel nut brush, which I love, and my set of Winsor & Newton cotton paints. Fabulous little set for really good value for money. So I'm just cleaning up my cadmium yellow because it's a bit green. I've obviously been a bit free. So I've got plenty of water on my brush and I'm just going straight from the palette for this one. So because I've got the masking fluid on, I can just paint straight over, and I can do the yellow in the sea as well, and I can match it in, and I don't have to be overly careful. So I'm giving my brush a really good wash off, and I'm going to do the same with the alizarin crimson. So straight from the palette, letting it mix on the paper. Might drop a little bit more yellow into that sky. Just to encourage that sort of orange tone. That's it around there. So I'm just going to give it a little spritz because I don't want it to dry. I want it to stay damp because then I can carry on working with it. So I'm going to pick up some magenta. Again, plenty of water on my brush, straight from my palette. Just mixing as I go. Just going to drop in a bit more yellow. I do like that sort of yellow glow in the sky. I can drop it in the water as well. And then I'm going to add some magenta and ultramarine together. I'm just mixing. That's the ultramarine, a bit magenta. If you haven't got magenta, you could use any purple, a dark purple or whatever purple's on your palette. So I don't want it to pull around the sailboat, so I need to just keep an eye on that. I'm just going to add a bit more ultramarine into this mix. Blue. I'm just going to add some little crimson and ultramarine together. Do a bit darker. Oops, a daisy. Might just add a little bit of Payne's Grey into there as well, just to darken it up. And then I'm just going to drop in while it's wet that land that I sort of sketched out. It goes down here. Okay, so wash my brush up. So I'm going to mop up this edge with a paper towel. That's easy. And then I'm just going to take off the excess around the boat. So a clean wet brush, damp brush, and just take off that excess. I'm going to come back in to that land soon. Just adding a bit of texture. So I'm going to mix while I'm waiting for this to turn that round and it drip down the board. So I don't want this land to go down, I want it to go across. So while I'm doing that, I'm just going to mix a really nice dark purpley dark landmass. I might use a little touch of indigo, see if that helps. That's a nice dark. So dark some purple and indigo. I'm just going to add in a little bit of burnt sienna, trusty burnt sienna, just to take the edge off it. So it's quite thick, you can see it moving on the palette, leaving a little trace. And I'm just going to darken that land. Nice even stroke. And obviously your land can be as big or as little as you want. Clean that hair off. It's always easy to take the hairs off before rather than after. My brushes always seem to drop hair all over the place. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm hairy myself. Who knows? So while it's still wet, you can do most things. I'm going to just go in with a little bit more alizarin crimson. darken that off with a little bit of ultramarine. Alizarin Crimson ultramarine mix. I might just put a little bit more yellow in as well, straight from the palette. That edge has just started drying. I'm just going to dampen it off a little tiny bit just to help it go to the edge. And drop in some of this ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson mix in the sky. Okay, you can overwork it. Remember, it will dry 30% lighter at least. So you can trust the process a little bit. I'm just going to give this a squirt, encourage it to mix, turn it over, and then I'm going to let that dry naturally as much as I possibly can. I'm just going to take the excess paint off the boat. It is only an underwash, so you're not trying to get everything to work straight away, but it is a nice palette. Unsure, happy with it, and it's settled, and you can then dry it off with a paper with a hairbrush. That'll work. But until then, I'm just going to leave mine this way up for a little while. So I'm going to press pause, and I'll be back with you. So here we are, we're back. I've tried it off with the hairdryer, but I think it's really nice as an underwash. I love this lighter side, which will show the shadows of the boat up really well, and this dark against the lighter sails will look nice. So we're just going to go over and enhance both the land and the water a little bit. But I'm going to leave the sky as it is. I think it's nice. It's got freshness, and if you overwork it, you can end up losing that freshness of skies and everything. So I'm mixing a darker purple, so I'm using some Payne's Grey, some ultramarine and some magenta. And I'm just going to paint over this land. You can see I've got a bubble in there. So it can be whatever shape you want, but I quite like that one. It's fairly straightforward. I'll hold on to that darker colour for a little while, so I let that settle. I'll put this excess on the masking tape. That's quite nice. I'm just going to use a thirsty brush to mop up this bit of paint that's on there as well. Well, I've got it. It's easy to keep your masking area clean, because when it comes off, you're less likely to get as many smudges. So that's why it's worth doing. Okay, whoops a daisy, paper towel cut that. That's a bit naughty. Okay, just like that. land dry for a little while. Quite like the little highlights, the little fuzziness of it. It's feeling good. So we're going to go in with the same colours as we did with the sky and the sea, and we're just going to enhance some of those areas. So this is just cadmium yellow, nice light wash. Try not to disturb too much the wash underneath. So really gentle brush strokes. So I'm just going to do a cadmium yellow and alizarin crimson mix to get a nice orange. So a nice orange colour. Just building up those colours. In watercolour working light to dark, so just going to add a little bit more alizarin crimson into that mix. And a little bit of alizarin crimson. Magenta into there, taking it more purple. And you're just building up the texture of the sea. It can be quite stylised, it's nice. I'm going to just add a bit of ultramarine into there. So you can still see some of those washes underneath. And I'm just going to use some of this darker, this is the one that we use for the land. Okay, so I quite like that one. So I'm going to let that settle in for a little minute, clean that off. And then we will give that a dry with a hairdryer. If you find it running down, turn your board around again, it's fine. So I work on a board as gravity's our friend. Okay, so the back I quite like this. I love how some of this light is showing through. That's working well. So I'm just going to take off the masking fluid. As always, you can lift it up with your fingers, or you can use one of these little pick-up rubbers. There we go. That sun's worked quite nicely. And if you let your masking fluid dry naturally, you should be able to remove it without tearing your paper. Go gently and steadily, because then if it does start ripping, you can at least do something about it. Reminds me of picking glue off my hands when I was a child. do like to finish off with my fingers because I like to check it's all gone. It has. So here we go. So we've got a beautiful sun there. I'm just going to add a tiny little hint of yellow around it. And just soften it off with some clean water. That's nice. It just feels like it belongs then. So I'm swapping over onto a smaller, rigger brush, and I'm going to darken this dark that we used before, adding a bit more Payne's Grey into that. If you haven't got Payne's Grey, you could give ultramarine and black a little bit of a try. I'm just going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson into there, a bit more water. Okay, so I've got a harmonising darker colour. So I'm going to go so that's the back of the boat, and then this is the side of the boat. And it's all in shadow. That's the sun's coming the other way. So for that cabin, I'm just picking up a little bit of the alizarin crimson. Okay, and then I'm just adding a little bit of magenta into a very watery wash, mainly water, for the sails, taking a little bit off my brush. And leaving a little highlight. Wash my brush, damp brush, not too wet, just to lighten some bits. Okay, so I'm going to drop in a shadow. So ultramarine and some magenta. I'm just going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson in there as well. So it's a warm shadow colour. Here's a bit of so it's a warm blue shadow colour. So this boat's still wet. A bit of dark along there. I'm just going to add a little bit more alizarin crimson to this mix. I just want it a bit more purplier orangey red. It's fairly thick paint, but I do want it to be able to move on the brush, because otherwise you can't get the nice shapes. joining in with that shadow colour on the boat. Okay, so I'm going to just use this shadow colour on the mast. And to draw a couple of people, same shadow colour. I've just got some water now and I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of water through this reflection. Particularly this bit, it feels a bit solid. So I drop a little bit of darker colour into the corner of these sails where they're pulling a little bit. Wash my brush, take the water off my brush. Just do that on a paper towel, take some water out and then just soften it in. That's better. I just didn't like the solidness of the boat, but I wanted the shadow colour. I can always go back into it. But for me, that's probably nearly done. Quite quick, quite simple, half an hour of painting. Maybe go back in and put a little bit of highlight on the cabin if you want, or maybe a little bit of a dark on the top. But I do think it was easier to paint as a with it masked out than painting around it. Maybe I should have pushed that a little bit darker at the back, the land. Don't know. Try and drop in a little bit more dark under that boat. Stop fiddling, Sarah. It's painting. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm going to just give that a quick whiz with the hairdryer, and we can take the masking tape off and then have a look at it. So we're dry. The last little thing that I need to do is to grab my rigger brush, and then I can put on the last little tiny bits of detail with the rigging. I nearly forgot, so I'm just getting a dark Payne's grey on my little rigger brush. So this one has got a little bit of rigging on this side, and I just want to put a dark along there as well for the work there. And I'm just going to put a little slightly loose. We're not trying to draw straight lines, but lift it up a bit. Soften it into that. There we go. It's also really nice to just define this top edge of the boat away from that cabin. Put some windows on. There we go. Well, maybe a bit darker, those windows. Something and nothing, but it just adds a little bit of information. If you want to separate you can put some additional lines through here.
Are you recording?
So there we are, we're finished. So I'm taking my tape off nice and slowly, tearing it away from the painting. A nice boat going home. That's worked quite nicely. Certainly easier to do putting the masking fluid on first. But it is possible to do it without. I've now got, let me just zoom out a little bit. So I've got these two that are based on the same boat, slightly differently. And I think it would do a smaller one, I think it would do a larger one. But I quite like it. So, happy painting. I hope you give it a go. Drop me a like, subscribe and comment. Comments are really nice for me to read and really encouraging. So thank you for everybody for joining us and being part of our virtual community, and I wish you well.